In modern backend architectures, we usually manage multiple microservices, each with its own server URL and authorization. We also work across multiple environments, like development and production. ReAPI helps manage this efficiently with servers, authorizations, and variable groups. Let's see how. First, let's list the microservices we need to configure. We have two services: user server, which uses the variable userservice.base URL, and post server, which uses postservice.base URL. By using these nested variables, we avoid hard-coding URLs. Next, let's define authentication for both services. User service auth uses bearer token set2 userservice.access token. Post service auth also uses bearer token set2 postservice.access token. Each microservice now has its own authentication settings. Since we're using variables, we need to define them in variable groups. We create two groups: development and production. Using YAML, we configure nested values for each environment like this. This keeps configuration structured and easy to manage. Now let's look at the test case titled User Test, which primarily focuses on user service testing. We select User Server and User Service Auth from the dropdown. Since we want to run this test against development, we choose Development from the Variable Group dropdown. After clicking Run, the request is sent to our user server endpoint, and the token resolves as the user access token. Now let's switch to production and run the test again. After selecting the production variable group and running the test, we see that the request now goes to the production user server with the correct production access token. Please notice that since we've selected a server and authorization for this test case, we only need to enter the request path. There's no need to include the base URL or configure the auth header manually. Let's add another API to this test case. This one needs to connect to the post service instead of the user service. To do this, we go to Options and select Post Server and Post Service Auth. After clicking Run, we see that while the other API calls still go to the user service, this one correctly calls the post server. With ReAPI, managing servers, authorizations, and environments is seamless. You can define global configurations while still having the flexibility to override settings when needed. Try it in ReAPI today and simplify your API testing.